In 2009, Russia unveiled a bold new vision for its long-range strategic aviation. At the height of renewed great power competition, Moscow announced the development of a next-generation stealth bomber, a platform that would rival America's B-2 Spirit and even challenge the upcoming B-21 Raider. The program was called PAK-DA, short for Perspektivny Aviacyjny Complex Dalny Aviacji, or Prospective Aviation Complex for Long-Range Aviation. It was supposed to be flying by now, but nearly 15 years later, there's still no prototype, no production line, and no confirmed flight date. Russia's stealth bomber remains, for now, more PowerPoint than payload. This is the story of the Russian stealth bomber they can't afford to build, a $20 billion gamble caught between economic reality, technological gaps, and a war that's bleeding its defense budget dry. Russia's long-range bomber fleet is aging. It currently relies on 3 Cold War-era platforms: the Tu-160 Blackjack, a supersonic variable sweep heavy bomber; the Tu-95 Bear, a turbocharged powered relic of the 1950s; the Tu-22M3 Backfire, a medium-range strike bomber. All 3 are fast or long-legged, but none are stealthy. The US, meanwhile, fields the B-52 and B-1, but also the B-2 Spirit, a radar-evading flying wing designed to penetrate dense air defense networks. By 2009, the Russian Air Force wanted its own 5th-generation bomber, one that could sneak through NATO air defenses, deliver nuclear or conventional payloads, and evade interception. The Ministry of Defense announced that the Tupolev Design Bureau had won the contract to develop the PAK-DA, targeting a first flight by 2021 and full service entry by 2027. What followed was a flurry of ambitious promises. According to leaked renderings and official interviews, the PAK-DA would feature a flying wing design for low radar visibility, be supersonic for greater fuel efficiency and lower thermal signature, carry a 30-ton payload internally, be equipped with next-generation standoff weapons including hypersonic missiles, feature full-spectrum stealth, radar, infrared, acoustic, and optical. In 2017, then Deputy Defense Minister Yuri Borisov told RIA Novosti, "This will be a fundamentally new aircraft, not a modernized version of existing bombers. Work is progressing according to schedule." But that schedule quickly fell apart. By 2019, the Ministry of Defense admitted the prototype hadn't even entered full-scale development. Budget constraints, shifting priorities, and delays in engine design were slowing everything down. The PAK-DA requires a new stealth-capable turbofan engine capable of sustained low observability, long endurance, and high power output. Russia's United Engine Corporation, or UEC, was tasked with developing this engine, dubbed Product RF, or IZD-80. But UEC was already struggling to replace Ukraine-supplied engines after the 2014 annexation of Crimea. The engine delay meant airframe work had to be paused. Meanwhile, the Su-57 fighter program, Russia's 5th-gen stealth fighter, was also experiencing delays, crashes, and production issues. That jet has still not entered serial production at scale. By 2020, Russian state media reported that a full-scale wooden mock-up of the PAK-DA had been built. Wind tunnel testing reportedly began at TSAGI, the Central Aero Hydromatic Institute. But no prototype was seen. As late as 2023, sources inside the Russian military confirmed to Izvestia that only components, like radar prototypes and cockpit modules, had been manufactured. The jet's maiden flight pushed to 2025 or beyond. Initial cost projections for the PAK-DA hovered around 1.6 trillion rubles, or roughly $20 billion US. But since 2022, Russia's economic position has worsened. The war in Ukraine has triggered severe Western sanctions, disrupted semiconductor and electronics supply chains, and forced Moscow to divert tens of billions of dollars into ground warfare. In 2023, the Russian government allocated over 5 trillion rubles, about $65 billion, to defense. But most of that is now going towards drones, munitions, artillery replacement, and manpower costs. High-tech aviation projects like the PAK-DA are seen as long-term luxuries. Defense analyst Michael Kaufman told War on the Rocks, The PAK-DA is the perfect example of a prestige project with no viable funding stream in a time of war. Russia can't afford to mass-produce the Su-57, let alone develop a stealth bomber. Even if a prototype flies in the next few years, serial production seems increasingly implausible before 2035. There's another issue: doctrine. The Russian military does not rely on bombers for nuclear delivery in the same way the US does. Russia's primary deterrent is its land-based ICBM force and submarine-launched ballistic missiles. Bombers play a secondary role, primarily in conventional cruise missile strikes. During the Ukraine war, Tu-95s and Tu-160s launched Kh-101 missiles from Russian airspace, never crossing enemy lines. In other words, stealth penetration hasn't been operationally necessary for Russia. Why build a B-2 style bomber if you're not planning to use it that way? Even the US struggled to justify the B-2. Only 21 were built. Each one cost over $2 billion. The upcoming B-21 aims to be cheaper and more modular. But the US has global commitments and forward deployed forces. Russia's needs are more regional and it has no overseas bases. That makes the PAK-DA a hard sell. Despite all this, the Kremlin insists the program is alive. In August 2023, Russian Deputy Prime Minister Yuri Borisov reiterated, "The PAK-DA remains part of our long-term strategic modernization. It will take flight when the time is right." But many analysts now see the bomber as symbolic, a prestige project meant to show technological parity with the West, even if it never deploys in numbers. Meanwhile, China has reportedly already flown its own stealth bomber prototype, the H-20, a flying wing design with global reach. Beijing may field a stealth bomber before Russia. That would be a historic reversal. Moscow, once the second aerospace superpower, overtaken by its junior strategic partner. With PAK-DA development indefinitely delayed, Russia has doubled down on modernizing its existing bomber fleet. The Tu-160M2 program is the clearest example. Rather than pursue stealth, Russia is refurbishing its supersonic legacy bomber with new avionics, engines, and missile systems. The Kuznetsov NK-3202 engine is being rolled out to extend range and reduce maintenance. The Kremlin has committed to building at least 10 new Tu-160M2 airframes, with the first flight of the production variant occurring in January 2022. These bombers will serve as the strategic backbone for at least the next 2 decades. The Tu-22M3M is also being upgraded with new targeting systems, improved cockpit displays, and increased weapon compatibility, including the Kinzhal hypersonic missile. In addition, Russia has sought to enhance its Kh series cruise missile arsenal to compensate for its lack of stealth delivery platforms. The Kh-101 and nuclear-capable Kh-102 are increasingly being fielded in conventional roles, a sign that Russia is prioritizing standoff capabilities from outside contested airspace. The Russian military also appears to be exploring alternative methods of long-range strike via autonomous systems. Programs involving stealthy long-range drones, such as the S-70 Okhotnik-B, are being promoted as lower-cost alternatives to manned stealth bombers. However, development progress remains slow and uncertain. As Russia falters, other nations move forward. The United States is advancing the B-21 Raider, which conducted ground tests in 2023 and is expected to enter service before 2030. The US plans to build over 100 of them at a unit cost of around $700 million. China's H-20 is rumored to have entered pre-production testing. Military sources suggest a 2025 debut. Europe, while not developing strategic bombers, is investing heavily in 6th-generation fighters under the FCAS and Tempest programs. India and Japan are beginning to experiment with indigenous strike drone and long-range standoff missile programs that could evolve into stealth platforms over the next 15 years. In this global context, Russia's delay is becoming increasingly conspicuous. Without the PAK-DA, Russia risks losing technological parity in long-range aviation for the first time since the Cold War. The PAK-DA might eventually take off. A prototype may fly, but it won't arrive in time to reshape Russia's air power equation in the next 2 decades. Instead, it stands as a symbol of aspirational compatibility, grounded by financial reality. a stealth bomber built for a war Russia never prepared to fight, and now may never be able to afford. Thanks for watching. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Will the PAK-DA ever fly? Should Russia even build a stealth bomber, or focus on drones and missiles? Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more deep dives into the world's most ambitious defense projects that may never leave the runway.